Hi, the introverted cynist here. Today, I am going to explain a 1997 science fiction action film called The Fifth Element. Warning, spoilers ahead. Kick back and take care. In 1914, Egypt, an inquisitive professor, along with his pupil, Billy, try to translate ancient scriptures in a temple to unravel the mysteries of the world. The professor now informs Billy when the three planets are in eclipse, the black hole opens like a door in the pattern of a snake, and evil enters, unleashing chaos and terror, and says, the snake is the ultimate evil. Billy now nonchalantly asks the professor, when is the snake act expected to happen, to which the professor, after his calculations, says every 5,000 years. The professor then adds, the people back then used to worship a fifth element other than water, earth, fire and air, which is the main weapon capable of defeating the ultimate evil. The father of the temple, watching them from behind, try to poison them due to the discovery, however, they escape it by a whisker. Meanwhile, a massive spaceship arrives outside the temple, with aliens known as Mondoshaans meeting their human contact. It is then revealed that the priest belongs to a secret order at the ancient Egyptian temple, guarding the stones. The Mondoshaans informs the priest that the stones are not safe on Earth, and they promise to return the weapon before the great evil's re-emergence. The professor was floored while opening the secret wall. The room consisted of the four classical elements, as four engraved stones, plus a fifth element in a sarcophagus. While retrieving the package, one of the alien was threatened by Billy with a gun. But the priest tries to calm Billy by saying that they are allies and accidentally shoots one of the aliens in the door, triggering the doors to shut. The alien now informs the priest to pass the knowledge about the stones to the next priest, and so on until their next arrival, and hands over the key before getting crushed. During departure, the priest assures the aliens that he shall follow as he is instructed. The scene then cuts to 300 years later, in an Earth spaceship as it heads to Earth suddenly come across a giant living fireball which is growing in size slowly. Back in New York City headquarters, the Mondoshaans' current human contact on Earth, Priest Vito Cornelius, expert in astrophenomenon, informs the president of the Federated Territories to not engage the fireball as it is evil and could lead to a catastrophe. Unfazed, the president orders the general to send a missile to the ball in order to protect 200 billion of his citizens. But, much to his dismay, the diameter of the fireball increased exponentially and its structure solidified on the surface. The president now, with no way to set it off, orders them to retreat, but it's too late. In another development, in South Brooklyn, we are introduced to Corbin Dallas, a former major in Earth's Special Forces, now leading a blue-collar lifestyle as a flying taxicab driver, getting ready for the day. He then encounters a kerfuffle with an amateur thief, but outfoxes him and then heads straight to his cab. Meanwhile, the priest explains the great evil's history and they have only 48 hours to act upon the issue. The priest also mentions about the Mondoshaan aliens and the weapon that can stop it. However, on their way to Earth, a Mondoshaan spacecraft carrying the weapon is ambushed and destroyed by a crew of manglers, alien mercenaries hired by Emmanuel Zorg, an art dealer who is working for the great evil. After the crash, the rescue team could only salvage a severed hand and metal armor from the wreckage. In the following scene, the scientist describes to the officer in charge that the arm isn't ordinary, but contains over 200,000 DNA memo groups, which is over 5,000 times that of a human being, and later, they use biotechnology to recreate the original occupant of the sarcophagus. After a laborious process of tissue regeneration, a humanoid woman named Lilu comes into existence and then becomes paranoid inside the chamber. She starts to speak in an unknown language, indicating that she remembers her previous life. The scientist then informs the officer that the cell is unbreakable and approaches Lilu and mocks her playfully. The environment becomes tense, making her break the container and let loose. Alarmed by the unfamiliar surroundings and high security, she escapes through the ventilation system. A group of police pursues her and demands her to stop, but she jumps off a ledge, crashing into Corbin's taxicab. Corbin, at first annoyed, then becomes fascinated due to Lilu's language and behavior. He is then surrounded by police to hand over Lilu and he hesitantly complies because he is a law-abiding citizen. But then, suddenly Corbin feels bad for her and peels out quickly. Catching them together on a jam-packed airway becomes no less than a wild goose chase for the policeman. While running the plate on Corbin's cab, the scanner gets blocked. The police then assumes that he is a car thief and starts to open fire on them, but they escape narrowly. While laying low, Lilu mentions the name of the priest to Corbin and then later delivers her to Cornelius and his apprentice, David. Cornelius, with much excitement, recognizes her as the fifth element and informs Corbin that Lilu is mankind's most precious possession. While unconscious, Corbin tries to wake her up by giving a kiss. Lilu now wakes up, semi-disoriented, with a gun on his head, and tries to make her remember by giving his card to her. The priest then immediately escorts Corbin outside without disclosing much information. Meanwhile, Zorg, awaiting the stones from the Manglers, is left to disappointment because the case is empty. Zorg defaults on his deal with the Manglers for failing to obtain the stones, resulting in some of their deaths, and orders his assistant to fetch the priest. As Lilu recuperates, she learns about the past 5,000 years through the computer and tells Cornelius that the stones were not on board but entrusted to an alien diva opera singer, the Plavalaguna, on the planet Floston. David now gets a detailed blueprint on Floston Paradise but informs Cornelius about a charity event being conducted the next day in the hotel, and getting an entry would be challenging. Later, the priest gets captured by Zorg's men and held captive without him mentioning the stones' location. Meanwhile, the government headquarters gets hold of the information about the stones and decides to discreetly handle this operation. They then arrive to Corbin's apartment and recruits him back by rigging a radio contest and awarding Corbin a luxury vacation aboard the flying hotel on planet Floston, providing him a cover. Corbin, now accompanied by Cornelius and Lilu, learning about his win in the radio, knocks him and steals his ticket and leaves to the station. At the station, Cornelius instructs David to pretend as Corbin and sends them to the ticket counter. Corbin then reaches at the right time, convincing that he is the winner, and accompanies Lilu with him. Failing to board the ship, Cornelius instructs David to prepare the temple, then stows away on the luxury spaceship. Learning that Lilu shares his mission, Corbin lets her accompany him. The Mangler crew, pursuing the stones for themselves, also illegally board the ship. After arrival, the duo gets separated. Corbin enters his room and looks forward to the concert, where he plans to meet Plavalaguna. At the concert, he is accompanied by a flamboyant talk show host, Ruby Rod. During the concert, the Manglers ambush and attack several guests and shoots Plavalaguna. Meanwhile, Zorg boards the ship covertly and arrives at the singer's suite room and sees Lilu with a case, but assumes the stones are inside and shoots and wounds Lilu and activates a time bomb before leaving with the case. Right then, Corbin asks Plavalaguna where the stones are kept, to which she says it is inside her and informs him to take care of Lilu because she is fragile and needs his love. Corbin now extracts the stones from her body. Meanwhile, Rod helps out Corbin in shooting the Manglers. Corbin then heads to the control room, where the rest of the gang was keeping the priest as hostage and demands to negotiate. Corbin, without hesitation, kills the leader, causing the others to surrender. Cornelius now apologizes to Corbin and works together in rescuing Lilu. Zorg now flees with the case, presuming that it contains the stones, but to his disappointment, discovers it is empty again. After rescuing Lilu, Rod and Corbin notices a time bomb, and the four flee the area. The remaining passengers evacuates using their own spaceship. Just then, Zorg returns back to get the stones and deactivates his bomb, but a dying Mangler sets off his own, destroying the hotel and killing Zorg. Meanwhile, Dallas, Cornelius, Lilu, and Rod escape with the stones in Zorg's private spaceship. The president, in the headquarters, now informs Corbin about the growing fireball heading to Earth and informs him they only have less than 2 hours to save Earth. Inside the spaceship, Lilu learns about the term war, the history, the after effects, and becomes sentimental after having a foresight about the future. As the great evil approaches Earth, the four meet David at the temple and start to deploy the stones one by one, and then activates them, but Lilu, having learned of humanity's own terrible history of war, has given up on life. Corbin now convinces Lilu that there are beautiful things worth saving and declares his love for her and kisses her. In response, Lilu combines the power of the stones, emitting a divine light onto the great evil, and defeats it. The president and the people become overjoyed with the outcome. The movie ends with Lilu and Corbin being hailed as heroes, and, as dignitaries wait to greet them, the two passionately embrace in a recovery chamber. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and comment if you enjoyed, and subscribe for more videos.